Yo everyone, welcome back. I know it's been a long time since I've done a proper meaningful video. Sorry about the inactivity. I've been preoccupied with some junk which has totally been taking on over me for the past few weeks. So guys, I decided to make another business video because I feel it's relevant. So I think for the last two videos, I made a video on fishbone, kind of explaining a cause and effect diagram which will help you identify business problems, and before that I think I explained, the difference between a public and private limited company. I mean, you probably heard of sole traders and partnerships. That's like a whole new level. But anyway, guys, now we're on to organizational objectives. What strategy, what do businesses try to do? What do they try to achieve? What are their objectives? Because each business you start has to have a purpose. So overall, for this type of topic in business, you have to be able to know and understand the critical objectives and the corporate social responsibility of a business, and you must analyze and apply the two basic keywords which I'll talk about at the start: mission statement and vision statement. And finally, which I may or may not cover whether in detail or not, you have to be able to evaluate the aims, objectives, strategies and tactics and their relationships. I mean, the words sound similar, but they actually have a different meaning. Especially if you think through business, the meanings are slightly different. The way you use them in everyday English might differ from how you apply them in subjects, whether it's business, physics, whatever subject. Anyway, okay, so this is an example. This is an automation company, and I'm sure of many of them, many telephone or anything you see. So let's start with a small study. This is an automation company, and as you know, it's a public limited company, and its stock price has dropped quite recently, which is kind of surprising. I don't read the news much about this company. As you know, it is German. I don't read the news of what's happening to the company, but any factor can affect the stock price. If, for example, stock price will drop if there's more sells than buys. And that's one thing. If the company usually does something which customers don't really approve of, that's one factor which may lead to them not willing to buy the stock. But anyway, the main point is that this company, as of 2014, I think, has been thinking of a strategy to increase its profits. And that's something you think of with any company. I want to make more profits. For example, and when it comes to making profits, you need to use different techniques in order to achieve that. It won't come from nowhere. And that's life. For example, they reduced the costs. They saved around 3 billion euros, and they decided to improve on their design, development and production. At the same time, they decided to, optimize the structure and management. So basically what they did is they optimized their own structure so that the complexity of processes will be reduced, and so will the redundant functions. Those are basic, but I'll cover those in more detail. Planning anything, including a large business or organization, will be difficult without planning the objectives of the organization. And the simplest way one can possibly plan a business is by noting down a mission statement and a vision statement. It can be a paragraph, usually a sentence describing what the purpose of the business is. So what is the difference between a mission and vision statement? So think of it this way. Mission statement is the overall mission of the business. You're accomplishing a mission. You're solving something, or you're usually doing something for the benefit of others, whatever. So the mission statement is like a statement which determines the main aims of the business, while a vision statement determines what the business would like to see in the long term. So it's kind of based on the mission statement, but kind of what they're expecting to make use of that, like what they're expecting to happen later and what they're trying to make happen later. While not only those statements are useful for planning, it can also help others identify what the whole purpose of the business was. For example, coming up with a good mission statement can be kind of difficult. It has to be something constructive and something which could motivate employees. It depends on the organization. It could be an online organization, could be an app, could be that type of company. What if you start a physical business or an education system or whatever? One benefit of a mission statement is it can kind of motivate the external environment, motivate employees. Perhaps they want to say, I want to work for this business. This sounds interesting. So just mission statement is simple. It's just the main aims of the organization. I'll give you an example in a bit, but let me finish defining it. A vision statement is kind of what they want, as I mentioned before, what they kind of expect to see and do in the long term. So it's kind of like a sentence saying what they plan to make the organization become, what they kind of hope for. Now, one of the most popular apps you probably use is Snapchat. It's the app we use to share our moments, share our experiences, take pictures, like whatever. People say it's a camera company, like they classify themselves as a camera company. And as you know, it's incorporated and they've gone public quite recently. And they've only gone public in 2017. So basically, we have the mission statement and the vision statement. So the mission statement is that they want to reinvent the camera to represent the greatest opportunity to improve the way people live and communicate. That's the purpose of the app. So of course, like many social media apps, they want to improve their communication. They want people to live a better life. They want people to share every experience in their life. So the vision statement is like kind of a continuation. So what they want to do is they want to contribute to human progress by empowering people to express themselves, live in the moment, learn about the world, and have fun together. Very similar to the mission statement, but that's what they're kind of hoping. They hoped, I think, when this was made at the beginning, the very beginning, they kind of hoped that, for example, when this app gets popular, that's how people will use it, and that's how they kind of expected people to make use of it. Anyway, guys, you might ask that if you're a non-business viewer, like, why do we have to know this? Well, business concepts can also be partly applicable to real life, especially when it comes to planning. Like when you come up with a campaign of any sort or come up with anything, you usually have to come up with the same statements. A mission and vision statement to tell the external groups of people what this is about. Another example, Nokia, a mobile company too. It's a brand, I think it's tech brand. I don't know much about it. I mean, of course, I know some mobiles which are branded that, but so what their mission statement is they want to connect people. They want to ensure all people are connected and people can communicate. So basically, the information with them is easy to use and the products are innovative. They aim to provide equipment, solutions, and services for consumers, network operators, and corporations. And the vision statement is basically a world where everyone is connected. So based on the mission statement to connect people, they want everyone to be connected, everyone who buys their brands to be connected. Anyway, let's do an evaluation. How useful is this? As I mentioned at the start, mission and vision statements are useful to, to inform the outside group what the central aim and the vision of the business is. And from that, ordinary people would know what the business is trying to achieve. And second thing, which I also mentioned before, they can motivate employees. Like when one is looking for a job or when one looking for employees in the organization as an owner, it's kind of what the organization is looked upon. And of course, obviously, they can tell employees how to work. They kind of know how to behave. Like for example, once the employees understand the mission and vision statements, they kind of adapt to that and work towards it, because the employees are motivated to do the best they can, earn the best salaries and make the best out of your business so you can raise your profits. It's you who wants to make the profit. No one else. You're starting a business, right? You have to make profit, okay? Guys, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this. Here we go. The money. Look, I got money. So yeah, guys, you have to make the profit. And for that, you need a mission and vision statement. No one will work for your business if you don't have one, right? Got it? But think about it. Okay, wait. Think. Are those statements actually useful? What purpose are they serving? Okay. They tell us what the business is about. Right. Okay. They tell us, oh, this is what my business is about. I'm starting this business for this purpose. But okay, is it efficient? There's many better ways you can advertise your business. Why through mission and vision statements? Okay. Yeah, chill. Okay. Let's discuss the disadvantages, because the disadvantages are significant, and without them you won't understand. Before using something, you have to know what its limitations are. Alright, well, as we know, a mission and vision statement is usually just one small sentence. I mean, a few words. Usually people can put it like up to a paragraph. Yes, that's fine, but usually few sentences. It can be anyway, depending on how deep your statements are. So it's not really specific. First of all, it's just general. For example, in the examples I gave, when companies say, for example, we want people to be connected, for example, it's not fully giving all the details on what the business is exactly trying to achieve. So when it comes to future plans, usually a whole detail has to be written. It's just a summary. And the thing about mission statements is usually many companies with a similar purpose will try to use the same statements and perhaps, apply it, and, at the same time, they will get more attention. Like any company, like Nokia says, I want to improve communication, for example. Many other companies with the same purpose would say the same thing. So because of that, it will be very difficult to judge. And because it lacks specific detail, people may not distinguish what the minor differences are between that organization compared to some. And because they're so small and they're so vague, as I mentioned, one can't really debate it. Mission and vision statements are nearly undebatable. Like, they just give a very basic background. So if you want, you'll have to read more about that business, for example, if you want to be able to analyze or disagree with the business, like do a debate. Yeah. Why not debate the business? Why not debate if the business is going to succeed? There's many debate topics for business. You should take part in those, trust me. Because of the inefficiency, because of how vague they are, as I mentioned, it might tell employees how briefly they will work towards the goal, but it does not exactly tell managers, for example, what decisions to make or like how to manage the business. It'll say that we want to improve communication. They'll have to work towards it, but it won't really give them a clear goal of what they're setting and what expectations they have to meet. Like the expectations are all clear, but meeting specific details to make the business successful can be difficult for managers. Trust me. And of course, they have to be written clearly, because remember, mission, vision statements are not necessarily only for you as an employer or as an owner of a business. Other people have to understand it, especially the employees. If you're hiring employees, they'll have to look into it. It has to be corporate plans and regular communication. You guys get that. And of course, the strategic actions have to be taken in whatever you do. Okay, guys, that finalizes the discussion about mission and vision statement. Okay, so now we're going to the next topic, which is briefly going to discuss the difference between aims, objectives, strategies, and tactics. So now we're going to get into corporate aims, operational objectives, strategies, and tactics. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing them. You can correct me in the comments like a loser if you wish. If you ever do comment. Anyway, these two link to kind of the goals, like what they're trying to target and accomplish. These two are linked to, kind of the procedures, like, the action, the actual action. So, of course, the mission statement is basically, or like the vision statement, actually this links to vision statement. It's kind of the long-term goals which a business hopes to achieve, and of course, link back to vision statement. So businesses have an aim. So, of course, aim is like what you're planning. So, objectives are usually medium-term. So, while you're trying to achieve the long-term goal, which is the aim, you have to kind of get through some small barriers. You have to kind of get through the specifics kind of required to, achieve for the organization to achieve the aims. Finally, in order to actually achieve the goal, you need the strategic methods. So a strategy is kind of the long-term plan of action. Like, what plan of action are you taking? Like, if you read any business case study, if they say the business is strategy, you are kind of thinking through the long-term aims to kind of achieve the long-term goals to kind of achieve the final aim. So they're making a strategy for a long-term plan of action. Tactics are usually small, they're minor, like, it's kind of like small problem solving. Like anytime there's a particular problem with the business, you use tactics to deal with that particular problem. Or, the link. So for example, if you want to solve something part of the overall strategy, meet a specific part, you would use tactics. So that's the difference between tactics and strategy. And when you're using it in everyday English, that's one thing you should also keep in mind. Corporate aims. Probably, if you think of corporate aims, you'll notice several examples, and sometimes when you read the news on business, you'll have to kind of depict what they are. They may not tell you directly, but you would. I'm not really experienced it, but so one example of an aim is I want to increase the shareholder returns each year. Like we want to expand the business so that we can maximize our shareholder returns. So in order to get maximum returns from shareholders, basically, sorry for mixing up words, they kind of have to expand the business. So, if they expand the business, usually we do more well. And especially if a business is going private, they would like to expand so that it can get more and more successful. And businesses tend to go through the complicated stage once they have expanded really well and are really successful. Most organizations, actually, the main aim is to actually satisfy customers, meet the customers' needs. That's usually initial, like when you're starting a business and you're kind of thinking, what am I getting through? You kind of have to think that I want to satisfy customers' needs. And this can actually guide the whole organization to get large, trust me. Okay, I'm not a businessman myself, but trust me, I have knowledge, I have background, I even studied business briefly. So of course my job is, I often work for businesses, I operate businesses. You guys get the point, but please don't take that as a way to, be suspicious about my facts. My facts are right. So usually accomplishing objectives can be more convenient if you also have an aim, because usually they lead to the aim. If you get through small problems and get to small goals, usually that will help you get a big aim, because you want to deal with your tiny problems. You should not leave that till the very end. Businesses will drift from an event if there is no long-term plan or aim or corporate goal. And of course, that will kind of defeat the business's purpose, right? And the workforce and the customers will be severely affected from that adversely. Smart target. Whenever you come up with an operational objective, they have to be smart. Of course, when you say you have to be smart, they have to be smart. It's divided, like it's an acronym divided into different words. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time specific. Like when it comes to, in any goal you try to solve, you need to have a time frame. How long will it take me to achieve this goal? What will I do during that time? That also applies to life. I have to continuously make plans. And those are examples of it. You can pause the video to read them. I'm not going to waste time reading them myself. To begin with, corporate aims refer to the whole organization. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. So you have to break them down into tactical or operational objectives. For example, the divisions have to be coordinated. And if they don't work together, it'll be confusing for the organization. And the strategic corporate objectives have to be consistently followed. And there has to be adequate resources for the business so that the objectives can be met. Without the necessary resources, it's like impossible to meet objectives. Think about it. Here's a pyramid which represents the objectives of a business. And okay, trust me, this is applicable to life too. This can be, maybe in a different way. So you have a long-term goal, you have an aim. And then you do kind of, the hierarchy is on top. So the aim is the primary thing, is a priority. And as you go lower down the pyramid, it becomes less and less significant. But it's still significant, but less. The aim is like the large thing, and these are the small things, short term, from corporate objectives to the departmental objectives to individual targets. So just for you. So these are examples of objectives and action. Like the aim, as I mentioned, could be to maximize the value of the shareholders, and objectives for that is to increase the profits in all divisions. So kind of working the way into achieving the final objective, the aim. So they're kind of trying to increase the profit margins, they're reducing the long-term borrowing. And of course, increasing the sales. That's another thing you should remember. And as you know, without clear objectives, the decision making will lack direction, and you can't assess success at all. You have to collect the data, choose an option, review success or failure. It's continuous work. In a business, you have to work continuously in order to meet that. And remember, even when a business is running for a reasonable amount of time, this doesn't stop. This continues. Especially when a business gets successful, you have to think of strategies to expand the business to satisfy customers even further. And once again, strategy is long-term and tactics are short-term. And once you make a strategic decision, you usually can't reverse it because, once you make a strategy and tell the employees in the departments about it, they'll commit their resources into it. So it'll be too late to say, sorry, the strategy doesn't work, try again later. Of the directors and the senior managers to take that. You have to tell them, and once you make them, of course, you can't reverse them. I'm sorry, but why waste someone's time if something doesn't work? You need to plan logically. That's the point. Anything you do requires planning. For tactics, of course, it's short and medium term. There will be costs, there will be some resources committed, sure, but yeah, it's easily reversible. It's short term, and usually they're taken on the lower hierarchy. I can't really refer to a case study for this. You can find out. If you read business articles, you'll probably find what businesses are planning to do. Especially if it's a new business, you'll find it. But as I mentioned, this goes on. So these are examples of big corporate aims. I mean, actually goals, small goals, but they vary. For example, some could be to increase the profit margin, increase the efficiency, provide better customer service. Anything counts, like what they're trying to do to make the business better. I hope this video really helped. Thank you so much for the patience and time to watch this video. I know it's been long, tiring, and I explained too much. To me, clearness is victory. If I don't make anything clear, what's the point? No one will understand the video. But anyway, you guys get it. See you. Take care. See you next time for another business video, whatever video I plan to make. Bye.